Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head down to Brazil once again for the first time in what feels like a good little while. Now, this is yet another of the beers that I picked up from Beer Dome down in the Netherlands. As I've told you in previous Brazilian reviews, they've got a very good selection of Brazilian stuff, as well as things from other countries that are quite interesting, but I have to say I've been very impressed with the standard of Brazilian beers that I've tried so far. I've still got a good few Brazilian things in the fridge. Most of them are big imperial stouts because, it's a little bit difficult to judge how fresh some of the lighter things are. So when I order the Brazilian stuff, I tend to try beers from new breweries, but go for something that's a little bit more kind of malty leaning because we know that those last a little bit longer. But if you do come across some Brazilian beers, then I highly recommend that you check them out. They've got some great breweries down there these days. But for this review then, we are going to go to another brewery that I've never tried anything from before. These guys have got a very good reputation, so fingers crossed this is another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So for this review then, we are going to go to Santos, which is just to the south of Sao Paulo in Sao Paulo state, towards the southern part of Brazil actually, and we're going to have a look at my first beer from Cervejaria Everbrew. So this particular beer is called the Double Human Condition. It comes in at 8.6% ABV, and this one is a New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So very, very curious to see how this one turns out. As I said, I like getting beers from different breweries down in Brazil to review for you here on the channel. So nice to add these guys to the growing list actually. So let's see how we get on with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Cervejaria Everbrew. This is the very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I mentioned, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for the Brazilian beers that I'm reviewing for you, and that is being added to fairly regularly at the moment, since I do have a few Brazilian beers to work my way through, and I will continue to order these from Beer Dome over the next kind of months and years and things like that. So we probably will keep reviewing Brazilian beers for a good while yet, and you can look forward to those. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review, especially if you're watching from down in Brazil. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Cervejaria Everbrew then, on to my brewery notes. So Cervejaria Everbrew are a gypsy brewery, or they were originally a gypsy brewery, that are based in Santos in Sao Paulo state in the southern part of Brazil. But the brewery was founded in 2016 by Celio Ongaro and René dos Santos, who were co-workers, and they've been homebrewing together since about 2011. Both of these guys come from backgrounds in logistics and management, and they wanted to make, big hoppy beers because they weren't really able to get a hold of those in Brazil at that time. But over the years, they continued to develop their recipes, and then they formed the business officially in 2016, and they released their first beers that year as well. That was the Ever IPA and the Ever Black. But these beers quickly gained a very good reputation, and they won medals at various different festivals throughout the country, and this really built up the reputation of the brewery. But initially, they were producing their beers on a contract or gypsy brewing basis at various locations, such as Dadiva, who I've featured on the channel before. But in November of 2018, they opened the Everbrew brew pub in the Santos Municipal Market, which started off with a brewing capacity of around 28,000 litres per month. But at this place, they've got 14 taps at the bar, and they've got quite a nice food menu there too. So you can check out the link to that in the video description below. It looks quite a nice place. So when I do make it to Brazil, which I want to do at some point, I do need to get down to South America or have a look at wider Latin America at some stage. That's something I would really love to do. But it would be quite cool to go and film at the Everbrew brew pub in Santos. So something for the future. But in early 2021, they also secured a new production site in the south of the city, and they're using crowdfunding to help them get all the brew kit and things together to build this up. But they've also now got Antonio Ferrera involved in the beer production as well, and over the next while they basically aim to kind of increase their output and also to distribute their beers a bit more widely to different continents. The articles that I read were talking about more beers coming across to Europe, to North America, and some going over to Asia as well actually. So quite exciting times ahead for this brewery, there's no doubt about that. But as of June 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 160 different kinds of beer. And like I say, they're very well known for their IPAs actually. Apparently a lot of the reputation that they have was built on the back of the kind of New England hazy IPAs, but they've done quite a few different styles over the years, needless to say. But yeah, that was all the information I was able to find on this brewery. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to find the information on the Brazilian breweries because some of them are contract breweries and don't really do interviews and things like that, but it was fairly easy for these guys actually, so I'm quite thankful for that. But yeah, if you want to learn more about the brewery, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. That's where they seem to be most active, is on the 2 social media platforms, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. But yeah, that is it for your little history section about Cervejaria Everbrew. So let's have a little look at the artwork then and have a taste of the beer. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is pretty heavy metal. It looks really good. If you look at the pictures of the brew pub that they have actually, it is pretty kind of rock and roll, heavy metal sort of thing. It reminds me a little bit of the artwork on this can reminds me of the Creator album Phantom Antichrist, so I do wonder if there's a little bit of inspiration from that going on here. Yeah, Creator, of course, German thrash metal legends, love that band. Jürgen Ryle, the drummer. Oh, just awesome. Absolutely love it. But yeah, this beer, as I said, it comes in at 8.6% ABV. It's a double New England IPA. And this apparently is basically just a double IPA version of their Human Condition, which I think is one of their kind of regular core beers, if you like. But yeah, 473 milliliter can, this one, which is 1 American pint. And I think I paid somewhere in the region of €7.50 for this can, so that translates to a little bit under £7 sterling, somewhere in the region of, you know, about $8.50 American, something like that. So yeah, a little bit more expensive, but as I've told you in previous reviews, Brazil and South America, generally speaking, does not have a trade deal with the European Union, so you've got tariffs on top of these things as well, so the Brazilian beers will be a little bit more expensive. But, you know, you don't get to try Brazilian beers all that often. For me, it's a case of, you know, bugger it, why not? Let's have a go at these. And I've been impressed with the quality of stuff that I've had out of Brazil, so I don't regret paying a slightly higher price that you'll pay for these. I do the same with the Russian beers that I get a hold of too. But beautiful looking can, this one. I believe the original Human Condition beer is in a yellow can, but here you can see on the side of the beer too, that is the Everbrew, Cervejaria Everbrew symbol there, the nice kind of skull. But yeah, I think we can get this guy out now and have a little taste of it. So let's go for it then. Very, very curious about this. And as I say, if you are interested in trying some Brazilian beers for yourself, this thing is filled to the brim, but yeah, if you are interested in trying some Brazilian beers for yourself, then I would highly recommend that you check out Beer Dome down in the Netherlands. They've got a great selection, and you'll see more and more of these appearing on the channel over the next little while. But yeah, we'll get this guy out and into the glass then. Let me just sugar up the last little bit and see if we can get a little bit more haze into it or something. But yeah, looks pretty nice. Let me just line up the can once again so that my OCD is happy. There we go. So, right, before the head disappears on this one then, you can see it poured with about 1/4 to 1/3 finger of a frothy, I would say kind of white creamy coloured head, but that's fading away just to be a very kind of thin foamy layer. There's 1 or 2 big bubbles kind of sticking towards the side of the glass on this one, and the carbonation seemed a little bit active, but you can see it's just leaving a nice little foamy ring around the kind of top edge of the glass there. But I mean, overall, it looks pretty nice. In terms of colour, if I shine the light through this one, it's actually a very kind of bright yellow, this one, but it's a little bit, it's showing up, I can see on the camera, it's showing up a little bit brighter on the camera than it is to the naked eye. But I would describe this beer as being a little bit akin to a sort of mango pineapple juice kind of thing. As you'll know if you've watched my videos, I like to compare the New England IPA's colours to different fruit juices, because that's just what their appearance reminds me of. But remember, when it comes to these beers, The colour is dependent on a couple of different things. One, the type of malts that you use. This determines the magnitude of your colour. Two, the length of your wort boil. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar's caramelised, thus you get a darker colour of beer. This one though, going by that, it looks as if it doesn't have so much in the way of a kind of caramel to it. I think this one might be, you know, kind of bready malts and things like that are in this beer. Yeah, certainly doesn't look too dark. This one, as I say, a kind of mango pineapple juice type colour. But if you have any adjuncts or barrel age the beer in any way, then that's usually going to affect the colour of it slightly as well. But in a New England IPA, those things are very, very unlikely, to be honest, because it's usually adjuncts like lactose and dextrose and all of these kind of things that you put in these beers. But yeah, certainly looks the part. In terms of the haziness that we get out of this beer, for an 8.6%er, it's certainly not the soupiest and gloopiest of one that you're going to come across, but I am wondering if this beer will have a little bit of sediment in it, so that might change a bit later on. But remember, the level of haze in these beers depends on the oat and the wheat content, the yeast to a degree as well, so that can, you know, this can vary from recipe to recipe, brewery to brewery, and so on. So there's no real rule about how much haze you should have in a New England hazy IPA. But in terms of what you would expect for appearance in this style, it certainly looks the part. So I don't think we really need to say too much more about this one. It looks the part of any type of New England IPA, be it Pale Ale IPA or Double IPA. So yeah, let's have a closer look at the aroma of this one then and see how we get on. Nothing surprising about the appearance of this beer. Ooh, that does smell very nice actually. There's something very familiar about this beer as well. So yeah, one thing I will say about this beer is that it didn't tell you on the website or on the Untappd or anything exactly what hops were in this one, but I have the feeling that this is something quite familiar, like, you know, Simcoe and Mosaic or Simcoe and Citra, something like this. There's just something really familiar about this beer, to be quite honest with you. But it smells very, very nice actually. And it smells pretty fresh as well. This is the other thing, as I say, when it comes to buying beer, the Brazilian beers in, when it comes to Beer Dome, I always try and keep an eye on their social media for when the drops come in to make the you know, to buy the stuff up pretty fresh if I want a couple of IPAs, because I like to mix it up obviously, and certain breweries down there are known for IPAs rather than the big heavy stouts and things like this. But yeah, I'm always a little bit sceptical about some of the stuff being imported. How long has it been sitting? How has it been transported and so on? But yeah, this one smells as if it's in pretty good condition actually. It smells as if it's fairly fresh. So yeah, pretty good. But yeah, let's try and break down the aroma for you a little bit more and see how we go. My first impression of this beer is that it's quite an oaty and kind of creamy leaning New England IPA, but it's also got some really lovely juicy fruity notes to it and a bit of a lighter grassiness as well. So yeah, it smells pretty good, this one. I'm curious to see how that translates into the flavour, but let's break down the aroma for you a little bit more. So on the aroma of the beer then, the malty backbone of this one is quite interesting. As I've told you in previous reviews, I think there's 6 different routes you can take a New England IPA down. They can be more farmhousey and yeasty, they can be rye leaning and grainy, sorry. They can be a little bit more sort of wheaty and bitey, oaty and creamy, sort of barley malt leaning and bready, or a little bit more kind of brown sugary leaning. And quite often these beers will display a few of those characteristics. For me, this one, it's interesting because you do get a little touch of a wheaty bitiness at the back of the nose, but you also get a little bit of I say, a kind of oaty creaminess out of this one, and you can also smell a bit of the smoothness from the wheaty character. When I was looking at it earlier, it actually says on the side of the can here, açúcar de milho, and I'm guessing that this is lactose. Basically, obviously I have no idea about Portuguese, but yeah, agua, malta de cerveja, aveia, malta de trigo, açúcar de milho, lúpulo and levadura. I'm not sure exactly what levadura is, but I think there's lactose in this, barley malt, beer malt, aveia I'm not 100% sure about, but yeah, it looks I think it's going to just have a little touch of lactose in it. It's quite a popular thing to do amongst the Brazilian IPA breweries actually, is to put a little bit of, you know, dextrose, sucrose, you know, some of these kind of sugars and things in there as well, like dextrose, lactose and all of this. They like their IPAs to be smooth down there, and you definitely get a little bit of that kind of creamy smoothness out of this beer. So you can smell that it's got a little bit of that kind of big oaty kind of creamy quality to it. And in terms of, pardon me, sort of brown sugary elements to this beer, you do get a little bit of that kind of Werther's Original kind of brown sugary element in there. There's a wee touch of a straight up sweet caramel in this one, and a few little McVitie's digestive biscuity elements, but yeah, you can smell the oaty creaminess and then the brown sugars on top of that, which gives you that sort of butter candy type note out of this one. But the malt base is quite interesting in this. You can smell that it's a little bit boozy as well, and at 8.6%, to be honest, you would kind of expect that, to be honest. So repeating to be honest there. But yeah, let's have a look at the fruity part of the beer then, and the green component. So, hoppy side of things, there's a teeny little bit of earthiness in here, not too much. You do have a bit of a deep floral aromaticity in there. It's not overly spicy, there's a little bit of spiciness to it, but yeah, nice kind of deep floral aromatic quality to this one. And you've also got, you also have a little bit of a kind of bright citrusy, grassy sort of thing coming out of this one, which is making me think there's potentially a little bit of citra in this one. But yeah, the aroma coming out of this beer is certainly very nice. But fruity side of things, there's a wee bit of passion fruit to this one. I've got a feeling there's something telling me that this could just be like Simcoe and Mosaic, because the tropical fruits that you get out of this are not madly complex, which, you know, that makes me think more Simcoe rather than Citra. So yeah, I get a wee bit of a stronger passion fruit out of it, but then the passion fruit mellows out the more you smell of it. There's definitely one or two little apricot-y kind of notes in there, like a softer tropical fruit, but you're also getting a kind of nice juicy tangerine element out of this one. In a lot of ways, this IPA really strikes me as quite straight shooting. And there's quite a few elements of this beer are kind of familiar in a sense. So yeah, I like how I do like how it goes together. So yeah, the malty side of things and the hoppy side of things in this beer go together very well. It's a nice smelling IPA, this one, with a little bit of nostalgia, because it does strike me as being as being something quite familiar, to be honest with you. But nice smelling beer, this one. It comes in, from the aroma at least, as seeming pretty fresh. So let's have a taste of it and see how we get on. As I always say, take a bit of time to ponder over the aroma of your beers before you get stuck into them. But yeah, this one is the Double Human Condition, 8.6% New England Hazy, Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA, from Cervejaria Everbrew in Santos in Sao Paulo state down in Brazil. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål, cheers, and as they would say in Portuguese, felicidades. Let's go. Oh yeah, that's pretty damn nice actually. And it still comes across as pretty fresh. I think it's not at its absolute prime, of course. I think I get the feeling from the flavour of this one that it's maybe about like 2 months old or something like that, which isn't bad. I mean, it's going to take 2-3 weeks to get over to the Netherlands from Brazil, and they've probably had it a couple of weeks. And I've had the beers in my fridge, you know, a little bit as well. I made this order when they said they had a new Brazilian drop actually. So yeah, I think I'm probably drinking this beer somewhere in the region of like, you know, 8 to 10 weeks old, which, you know, it's not in its prime if you like, but it's still in a pretty solid condition. And I will say it gives it does give a very nice impression actually. So I can imagine when this beer is like this at about, you know, 8-10 weeks old, I can imagine what their things are fresh from source at the brew pub. It would definitely be cool to go there just on the basis of the little sip that I've had from this one. So maybe an out and about video at some point. If we could do an interview with some of the Brazilian breweries as well, that would be good. But the frequency of people that speak English kind of down there is not as high as you would expect from what I understand. But yeah, still very, very cool though. But nice beer. Thumbs up to Cervejaria Everbrew for this. This is solid. Yeah, first impression of it is it's got a nice balance between being kind of creamy and quite oily. There's no sediment in the bottom of the can there as well. You can see that it did get just a little touch more hazy as I put the rest of it in there. But yeah, it does look very, very nice. Or does saying it looks very nice. It looks, smells and tastes very nice, this one, but it's quite familiar. It's quite a straight shooting IPA. It's one of these ones that's well crafted and it just goes together really well. So again, thumbs up to Cervejaria Everbrew. Let's break the flavour of this down properly for you then. So yeah, straight away across the middle of your palate, you can feel that nice. You can feel that nice sort of smooth white bready character in there. It's got a nice degree of kind of light bready crispness to it. So you can feel a little bit of the pale malt in there actually, which is quite interesting. So this beer has a nice kind of creamy backbone to it, but at the same time you've got a bit of lighter, kind of crisper barley malt character coming out of it, and you've also got a little bit of a more kind of bitey wheaty thing. The malt base in this actually has a wee bit of complexity, which I really like. So yeah, let's try and break that down for you. So middle third of your palate then, you can feel that nice smooth but still quite crisp soft white bready character. That's the backbone of the beer. If you go to either end of that middle third of your palate, there's a wee bit of a soft kind of bread crusty element coming out of the beer, which I very much like. So yeah, on top of that you can feel a little bit of a slightly smoother wheaty layer in there, and then you've got that thicker kind of oaty lactosey layer to this beer, and it's like the lactose and the oats are kind of mixing together in this one and just sitting on top of those lighter layers, like I said. But the oats I think kind of concentrate themselves a little bit more in the kind of centre of your palate. So you've got like this kind of thicker, kind of creamy layer, but then within that you've got like a sort of circle or an oval in the kind of centre of that middle third of your palate, and that's where the kind of smoother and slightly sweeter oaty elements concentrate themselves. So I like that about this beer for sure. Yeah, but in the middle of that front third, in the middle of that middle third of your palate, you can feel in the dead centre you've got a smaller kind of circle there, and that's where you get some of the brown sugary elements coming out of this beer. And of course this is where the kind of booziness of the beer is kind of covered up or integrated, however you want to view it, into the beer. So yeah, you've got that nice kind of Werther's Original type quality to it, which I really appreciate. Actually, I do like a bit of that kind of butter candy Werther's Original sort of thing. But if you go into the very, very dead centre of your palate, you can feel there is a sort of straight up sweet caramel there, and as you move out from that, it gradually feels a little bit more kind of biscuity. So yeah, it's almost like you've got a layer of the kind of Werther's Original butter candy type notes coming out of the beer. On top of that, you've got a straight up sweet caramel, then a more kind of biscuity sort of thing, a more kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing as you go further out towards the edge of the palate. So yeah, I like how that how the beer goes about its business from that aspect too. But the malty side of things I think is quite nicely done. But the more you drink of this beer, the more it leans to that lactosey, creamy, oaty type of New England IPA. But yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me in that regard, certainly. So yeah, I like how this one goes about its business for sure. So well done to Cervejaria Everbrew for the malty side of this beer. I think it works well, and I do think that when it comes to this style of beer, the malty side of things is often neglected a little bit. A lot of people don't think too much about that. But yeah, back third of your palate then, border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of a kind of more bready build up once again, a wee bit of a bread crusty quality in there. Then the back third of your palate, underneath that you can feel a little bit of the crisper white bready qualities, you can feel a little bit of the smoother wheat. Then on top of that you have a little bit more of a kind of oaty, creamy kind of element there. But on top of the that layer, of course, you get the more yeasty elements coming out of the beer. So you can feel that slightly airier, bready, yeasty type quality sitting there. So as you come from the back of that front third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is a little bit tall, and as it moves further forward, it kind of condenses down a little bit. Then as you go into the middle third of your palate, as you go into the middle third of your palate, it moves further forward. You know, it kind of condenses down a little bit and the beer just feels a little bit slicker. So yeah, it's interesting that. Nice malt base on this one. The hoppy side of things then. The back corners of the palate, you can feel it's got a nice little bit of earthiness there, which again makes me wonder about mosaic. But as you move further forward, it smoothens out a little bit. There's a little touch of herbal quality, and as you move further forward in the beer, you get a nice little bit of a kind of floral aromatic quality out of it. And it's got a little bit of kind of spicy quality to it there as well. And you know, a lot of these hops that they'll probably use American hops in this beer. They are very high alpha acid, so bear that in mind. You will get quite a bit of a green component out of this beer. But around the front curve of the tongue, there's certainly a little bit of a lighter, more kind of grassy element coming out of this one, and there's a little touch of zest to the beer also in that sense. But yeah, the green component of this one is quite nice, and as I say, the further you go into the aftertaste, it leans more towards that grassy, zesty side of things, which I can certainly appreciate, and that gets a thumbs up from me. I like a good green component to the beer, and I think it gets a little bit more kind of bitter and things the further you go into the aftertaste, but we'll talk about that when we do the mouthfeel. So, fruity side of the beer then. Front third of your palate. Border region between front third and middle third of your palate. Again, you get a nice little bit of a kind of bready build up there. You can feel one or two little bread crusty elements. And the base of that front third of your palate, you've got a nice kind of lighter bready. You've got a nice kind of lighter sort of crisp white bready note to it. And then you can also feel just a wee bit of the oaty kind of lactosey sort of thing sitting on top of it as well. So the front third of your palate has a wee bit of that. You know, it feels a little bit kind of slick underneath too, but then on top of that you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So if you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, there's a little bit of a stronger passion fruit in there. As you move kind of further forward, it starts to mellow out a little bit, and you perhaps do get a little bit of a mango element or a kind of more mellow passion fruit. And as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, there's potentially a little bit of, you know, an apricot-y, pineapple-y kind of thing as well. So these flavours, these tropical flavours, are making me question what I said before about Simcoe, because I think Simcoe is quite a straight shooting one. It's a smooth passion fruit, and it could, you know, it could be Citra, it could be Simcoe. It's something very familiar. I don't think it's Idaho 7. Idaho 7 would be another obvious choice for this one. Galaxy as well would be another obvious choice, but Galaxy is a little bit more pungent, I think. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what hop is giving you the tropical side of the beer, but yeah, little touch of passion fruit at the back. A juicy kind of mango dominates the flavour, and it has, in fairness, it has got a wee bit more of a mellow passion fruit to it as well. Then you get one or two little undertones of, you know, pineapple, apricot sort of thing. But as you move into the front half of that front third of your tongue, there is just a little touch of a lighter tangerine orange. I do suspect mosaic with this one. I do think there's a bit of mosaic in this beer. So yeah, I do like how that goes together. A nice little bit of a wee citrusy edge on this one. I would say too, that lighter tangerine note you get on the front half of that front third of your tongue, as you move towards the tip of the palate, it gets a wee bit more, it does become a little bit more sort of oaty, and you get a little more oatiness underneath it, and then you get a wee touch of limey character just before those grassy esters too. So yeah, there is a wee bit of a citrusy side to this beer. I don't think it's enough to say, oh, that's like Equinaut or Motueka or something like that, but that could be another sign that it's Citra in this. But the hop combination, whatever it is they've used in this one, I think it's 2 hops, and I think it's something, you know, quite sort of standard and familiar, and there's nothing wrong with that. It works. The main thing is whether it's a nice tasting beer, and it certainly is, so it gets a thumbs up from me. But yeah, light juicy tangerine oranges, a bit of lime there on the front part, so there's a good wee citrusy side to this beer as well. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, I think we've said all we need to about the flavour of this beer. I would describe this beer as being towards the top end of mid-bodied. Yeah, towards the top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation is quite smooth in this one. This beer does have an element of creaminess and slickness to it at the same time, so it's a wee bit oily It's a wee bit oily, but it's a wee bit creamy at the same time, which is really interesting. But overall, as I say, top end and mid-bodied, smooth and quite slick and creamy beer, this one overall. And the carbonation, I think, sort of helps that a little bit. But it's a really nice tasting beer. I think that's, as we say, the main thing to take away from this one. In terms of hoppy bitterness, it tells you on the can that it's 65 IBUs. I don't know if I would have quite picked that up with this one, that it was 65. I think I would have guessed that it was maybe about 50. And remember, I'm not sure exactly how old this beer is, but probably what you're going to get with these beers is that as they they get a little bit older, some of the hoppy character is going to drop out. So you need to bear that in mind with this one. We don't know exactly how old this beer is, so it makes sense that I would have guessed a little bit less than this. But as I always say, IBU counts are my weakest point of beer reviewing. So always take my IBU counts with a bit of pinch of salt. But yeah, the malty side of things, as we said, it's quite layered. You get a nice kind of crisp barley malt bready sort of layer underneath. You get the smooth wheat and a bit of bitiness off the wheat at the back of the palate as well. But then you get the smooth, oaty, creamy, lactosey type thing in the beer and a wee touch of sweetness. So the malt base has a good degree of complexity into this one. Green component is very nice, as we said, and then the fruity the fruity parts of the beer are quite, they're a little bit oily, I would say, but with a degree of juiciness, and they're quite familiar. You've got a nice balance between tropical and citrusy fruit in this beer as well. But yeah, it gets a big thumbs up from me. I really like how this one goes about its business overall. So yeah, I think Cervejaria Everbrew have done a very nice job of this beer. So yeah, this was the Double Human Condition, an 8.6% New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, Imperial Double IPA from Cervejaria Everbrew in Santos in Sao Paulo state in Brazil. Really, really nice beer, this one, and definitely cool to add this brewery to my growing list of Brazilian breweries that I've reviewed here on the channel. So yeah, thank you again for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my take on this beer. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Cervejaria Everbrew. Do let me know some other Brazilian breweries that you know of as well if you're watching from down there. But like I say, thank you for watching. Check out my social media. If you're watching from Europe and you're interested in Brazilian beers, I would highly recommend you have a look at Beer Dome, because they've got a great selection there. But yeah, awesome stuff. So thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Cervejaria Everbrew's social media, and I'll catch you guys soon. Awesome beer, this one, and I look forward to more from them in the future. Slàinte, skål, cheers, felicidades, and thanks for watching. Make sure you have a go at some Brazilian beers, because they're pretty damn good.